Oh, 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 oh. Welcome to Cinema Club. It's 420. Happy 420. Hi, I'm Foxy Grandpa. Today we're gonna talk about Reefer Madness. So I'm gonna put my hair back, block my eyebrows, and let's get started for this very special 420 special. Yeah. Alright, so we're talking about Reefer Madness. A movie, sort of, from 1936. It is only an hour and 8 minutes long. I do not recommend watching it. It is very bad, just like as a movie, poorly written, all of these things. Oh my. This is the Krylon TV paint stick that I usually use for this. Okay. Let's put, okay, cool. So my first big thought on this as I turn it on is that there's a lot of words up front in the first 5 minutes. They expect you to do a lot of reading, which is fine. And I normally don't mind it, but it's just alright, so there's a lot of words up front. It's very talky, and then even when we get into the story and we think we're meeting characters, they just talk at you for a very long time. So one thing that's interesting about this movie is that it was made at a very specific time in regards to the laws and attitudes on both film and marijuana. So the Hays Production Code had just sort of gone into effect in 1934. And for those of you that don't know, before this there was sort of no rules about you could do whatever you want in movies, which is why some early movies from the 20s seem kind of crazy. And you're but yeah, and so the whole idea that you can't put that in movie theaters comes from the Hays Production Code in the 1930s, and that's where you get the whole very strict no sex, no anything sort of vibe that comes. And frankly, it still sort of carries through a lot of the MPAA, but that's regulations and stuff, but that's a whole other conversation. So that had just happened in 1934. This movie was made, or was released in 1936. I believe it was made the year before, this almost the same year. So the Hays Production Code had just gone into effect. And the 1937 marijuana tax, or essentially the thing that made marijuana a Schedule I narcotic, happened in 1937, which is the year after this movie. I'm not implying a causality. There's a lot of stuff that made that happen. I think they're just sort of symptoms of the same thing that was going on anyway. So anyway, that's sort of the history of what's going on around this time. Also, the Great Depression was happening. Just not a great time. Well, most times in the past, not a great time for America. There's a lot of problems. There's a lot of people. Okay, so this movie has a history, and there's a lot of people who say things oh, this movie was originally made as satire and stuff. It basically ended up having a life as that for sure, but its original intention was definitely, at least its original well, okay, let's get into it. And you'll see it's a little more complicated than is this fake or not, right? So this was originally financed by a church group. The guy who was originally like financing it, his name was like George Hurleyman. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen if I'm not pronunciation of last name's not my strong suit. Anyway, but they couldn't like basically afford to keep making it or like distribute it or like try to distribute it, so they sold it to like an exploitation film guy, Dwayne Isbin, and he sent it around and put a lot more like cut more like salacious bits in there, like, you know, there's like, you know, like attempted rape and murder and all this sort of like stuff that like happens in this movie. And he essentially you know, put more of the like, you know, beefing that up. So the whole thing about like the Hays production code is like the only way you can get away with having scenes of like debauchery and stuff is if it was like a morality play essentially, and you showed how all these people were horrible and they got theirs in the end. And so like and that's sort of where like the exploitation genre sort of is born out of. Like a lot of exploitation films, all of the heroes and stuff essentially die because they are unconventional and because they have to. Because of the production code, because of the way that like movie land is or whatever. Alright. And so then it was like sent on a exploitation circuit. But in the 40s and 50s also had sort of a weird, not second life, but I guess half-life, different life, going through different church groups and stuff, as like a serious sort of thing. And even in the exploitation circuit, it was like a serious moral film, but it was the sort of tongue-in-cheek, everybody knew that like, oh, we want to see scenes of debauchery, but this is the only way we can get away with seeing it. Whether or not marijuana was good or bad, I think for the people that like distribute it and stuff, at least on the exploitation circuit, or even the church people, well, I guess they were anti-drug. But anyway, got some Banai to contour and highlight. So let's do that. Okay. Oh yeah, so by the way, this movie is free to download and watch on YouTube and like a bunch of other places because it is in the public domain right now. The people who had the copyright never kept track of it. And so like it had sort of like, and so it also went by several different names. It was called like Tell Your Children, I think like Dope Fiends, and a bunch of other ones, because between when it came out in 1936 to like, I think towards the end of the 50s, it was sort of being like shuffled between like church groups and things like that. And then still like shown a little bit on the exploitation circuit. So it was just kind of, you know, all over. And sort of like faded out of existence and people sort of forgot about it. And then it fell into the public domain in 1972. Like you can keep up your copyright. Copyright is weird and complicated. I could do a whole like freaking 2-hour-long thing on just like the basics of how this stuff works, and like music would be its own separate thing because that stuff's bananas. But suffice it to say, the people who own the rights to this let it lapse, and so it fell into the public domain. And so in 1972, it was basically like, I think somebody bought a print of it for like $200, or somebody bought the rights to it for like $1. Like it was like crazy cheap to like, yeah. And so because it had fallen into the public domain, it was like it was basically a free movie, and a lot of college campuses started showing it. You know, and in the 70s, you know, America sort of I don't want to say like discovered irony, but it sort of became like a mainstream cultural thing, like making fun of things, looking at how ridiculous things were in the past, and this was sort of like just perfect fodder for that. And so it sort of had a whole, and also like marijuana was very popular obviously at the time, and so it just sort of became this really funny thing to like get high and go watch, right? And that's sort of the life that it has now. I'm gonna say this right now, there are way better things. We have so much media. Don't waste your time. It's an hour and 8 minutes, and it felt like 4 hours. It is not well structured, it's not well written. Especially if you're stoned. There's just like a whole like fucking 5-10 minutes of like, well, first you get like for the first 3 minutes it's like what is it? You get a lot of words about like the dangers of marijuana. It's just sort of like these like cards that are like showing these like, you know, how bad it is or whatever. It's just such garbage for a lot of reasons. And then we get like a whole scene where they're like in the newspaper printing plant. Is that where newspapers come from? The mill. No, that's paper. Friggin' press. The press? Anyway. So, like, but we just get, like, and then we get, like, 3 minutes of runoffs of, like, newspaper headlines about, like, how marijuana is, like, corrupting the youth and, like, causes people to, like, go into psychotic rages or whatever, right? It's just, like, a lot of, like, even if you're not stoned, man, it's just, like, a lot of reading up front. It is a big ask from the audience when you have given them literally nothing. It just, yeah. It makes me angry. Things are poorly written because I feel like it wastes my time. Anyway. Oh yeah, blah blah blah. So finally we get to like a place when there are like people and characters, right? And we are at a high school. It is a student parent, or school parent, sorry. It is a school parent association meeting. And there's this really like Poindextery like guy giving an angry speech, right? And that's where we like sort of zoom in on him. Okay, yeah, and so then it is revealed to us that the purpose of this meeting is to start a nationwide campaign for the compulsory education on the dangers of marijuana. And yeah, he's very, very like Mr. Hanky if his head was deflated sort of vibe, but like way less fun. Yeah. And so he gets a letter from like, I guess he gets a letter from Government Narcotic Agency asking, you know, basically telling high schools and stuff what they can do to help the menace of marijuana, right? And he doesn't like sum it up, you know, he literally reads the entire letter to the audience and us, the camera, and it's just the still frame shot of him. And we're just, like, looking at him while he's reading a letter to us. And it is awful. It is, as like, artistically, it's such an awful, awful choice. Okay, yeah, and then we get, like, a whole, like, actually very informative montage about how drugs are sneaked around, you know, in the bottoms of people's shoes and stuff. And, frankly, I think gives a lot of people a lot of ideas, which, whatever, man. But yeah, so that's fun, I guess. But like, we have no story, we still have no characters, we still don't have a movie of any kind going on. And then he starts going ranting about how like marijuana is more dangerous than heroin, and I was like, yeah, I think if you're watching this video, you probably know that that's really not factual at all. Anyway, so finally, I didn't even check the time. It felt like 30 minutes in, but it's probably 5 minutes in. We cut to an apartment, and there's people, and they're talking, and I was just so relieved that we were going to see interactions and a conversation. It was like if it was an actual movie or something. Who knew, right? Alright, so we're in the apartment, and there's like a man and a woman. The woman is May. So like, I had a really hard time, and it wasn't just because I was stoned, I promise. I watched this sober too. Like distinguishing the dudes from each other, because they all look the same. They all wear like the same thing, and so some of my notes might be a little confused at some point, and I apologize. But anyway, so there's, I think his name is Jack? Okay, I'm gonna call him Older Bad Dude, right? Anyway, so Older Bad Dude is there with May, whose name I actually do know, and who I can tell, and like, she's, I guess, just like, she's like just napping or whatever randomly in the middle of the day, and he like rudely wakes her up and he's like, yeah, it's time to do stuff, whatever. He's like a real jerk about it, and she seems to not like him that much. So I don't know. So already we're just you know, not a lot of everything's bad, right? Everything's bad with them all the time. And it's just like so bad it doesn't even make any sense. Oh yeah, and then we see him go down to the kitchen and he's like about to like I guess get some drugs to sell to do something because they're drug dealers or whatever. They sell marijuana. And he like just pulls out like a full brick from the cabinet and he hears something at the door and he's like, "Oh, what?" It's like, are you just like keeping bricks around the house? Like it don't matter? I mean, I don't know, maybe that's the case in some people's places, but certainly not in mine. It was just like no context, just all of a sudden fucking bricks of marijuana appearing on screen. Anyway. Oh, and then we cut back up to May in the bedroom. She's, you know, getting ready because he demands it at that moment. And we just get, like, really, like, I mean, I ain't mad about it, but, like, really, like, long, gratuitous shots of her putting on her stockings. Which, I feel like that was put in by the exploitation guy, probably. It just felt, like, very, like, okay, alright, man, alright. Anyway. So then we see, like, we see two younger gentlemen and a girl walk in. Her name is Gwen, I guess. I don't know why I'm just picking up, because, like, nobody says anyone's name. It's really annoying. And they're, like, customers for May. I guess they came there to get some weed or whatever. And then older bad dude leaves, and he says, he's like, I gotta go push some drugs on some high school. Well, he doesn't like say it, but he's like, yeah, I gotta go push some drugs on the kids at the high school and get some new customers. It's just very, very like, look, I went through the DARE program, and the whole thing was that, like, every situation was, like, some random dude's gonna come up to you and be like, hey, kid, you want some drugs? Never in my life have I ever had someone just, like, try to give me drugs. I mean, okay, granted, when I'm, like, partying with people and stuff, but, like, it's also a little different. And also, like, for the most part, I paid into, like, a lot of that. No, I got a lot. We don't need to get into my party days in LA. Oh yeah, so like, it's just very like, you know, classic like DARE drug dealer, like some random older dude you don't know just starts like hanging around the school and is like, hey kids, I'm gonna get you hooked on some drugs. And it's just like, you know, drugs, you know, don't, you know, I don't know. Like, there are a lot of bad drugs and people do a lot of bad things for drugs, but like also like I don't think this helps, because it's not realistic, because like it's always like your friends or something. It's never it's never the creepy dude. Like, they otherize it so much, and that's not how it works. Whatever. Anyway, that's my little soapbox about drugs. We don't need to get into that. But yeah, and anyway, he's gonna go sell these drugs to the high schoolers, and he just like takes the whole brick from the kitchen. He's like, gotta go sell some drugs. Psh. I was like, you don't even take any baggies or fucking anything, dude. Like, you're just gonna sell a brick to someone. And it's just like, whoever made this does not know a lot about drugs, clearly, or at least marijuana. All right, so I'm just dumping this into a little container with my Big Puff so I can really go to town on my face, but I'm using the Kimchi Puff Puff Pass, and I think this is suntan. Ooh, I gotta get some more soon. Okay, yeah, so then we cut to, like, older bad dude, I guess, going to where the high schoolers are hanging out, and we see a big sign that says school crossing. There's news of a party, somebody's parents are out of town. And then there's like a weird zoom to a dude's butt for a while, and we like hang out there for a minute. Okay, hold on, I got a powder. Okay, anyway, so we cut to a soda shop. There's a lot of jazz dancing. The piano player looks super high. People are smoking reefer in the closet of the shop, and it's like all this smoke and everyone outside. It's just like, how do they not smell that? I don't know. It's just like nothing about this makes any kind of sense. Okay. Where am I? Just take a little like black liquid eyeliner. What's this go to? I don't know. This is like just like Crown Cosmetics. It's like just cheap, sort of like wide range of stuff. I don't know. It works. Anyway, I'm gonna do a little, at least just like sort of like flesh out a shape. Alright, I'm switching to this NYX super fat eye marker. Anyway, so like we meet like our couple, or like our teenage couple, I guess. They're hanging out at Mary's place. They're like, I don't know, after school or just, I don't know what's happening. It's Mary and Bill, all American teenagers. And then Bill like weirdly criticizes his mom's cooking, which is just like, I don't know, just like strange. He's like talking to her about like, you know, I try to tell my mom to do that, but like she does it and like she won't. I don't know. It's just very weird. Anyway, okay, so this couple, he criticizes his mom's cooking. They're like quoting lines from Romeo and Juliet or something, I guess, and it's like real romantic. Allegedly, according to the movie, I don't know. Yeah, and like the whole time Mary's mom is like spying on them, which I guess it's supposed to be cute, but it feels sort of weird and creepy. Especially when they start kissing and she just like lingers there and she's like, I'm gonna watch this. It's very strange. But whatever. But yeah, then I guess like at one point he's like, I gotta go and like do something. And he like trips over a bunch of stuff in the yard because he's like clumsy, nervous. I don't know. It's all very whatever. Switching markers. This is just like a cheap go-to eye marker from Crown also. This is doing a lot better than the other stuff was. Okay, great. Great, we've got an outline. Anyway, we go back to the soda shop. Bill gets talked into going to May's, the pot smoking place, and then so we cut to May's. There's like a lot of like crazy jazz dancing. There's like a bunch of making out going on. Someone tries to make out with Bill, and he's like, I refuse, because he's a good kid or whatever. People get and then jazz cigarettes start getting passed out. He gets peer pressured into trying it, which it doesn't like really take much. He seems very weak-willed. Oh, and then there's like we get a cut to like they're in like I guess the drug office or whatever, and like a bootlegger. He's like, you know, I draw the line at selling drugs to children. It's like even a bootlegger wouldn't, I guess, sell marijuana is the whole point. This is just very bizarre. Yeah, so like, so the older bad man is doing a lot of reckless driving while he's on weed. He runs over a pedestrian. Turns out to be just a hit and run. He's not killed, as we learn later. But like, yeah, he just like mows someone down. Doesn't even like say anything, stop or do anything. And then Mary starts getting worried that she hasn't seen Bill in a while because he's hanging out at the drug house. So that becomes a thing that we will see in a moment. All right, hold on. I gotta work. What am I doing here? Okay, so I've got so this is just the Hip Dot meatball palette, and I'm pulling out the green Grandma's pickles at the top here, and do little stuff. All right. So we get a cut to the DEA office, which looks exactly like the drug office, which I'm guessing is their attempt to save on like scenery, but like it looks exactly the same, and it is very confusing for me. The doctor declares that the government must put an end to marijuana because it's, becoming a public health epidemic. Da da da. We educators can't do anything until the public is aroused, and that is a quote. The doctor is like, start just like pulling records of like minors. I guess HIPAA isn't a thing at this point. And it's just like, oh yeah, random person, let me tell you all the specific details of all these people's medical histories. Very not okay. And stories of teenagers addicted to marijuana. He's like, it's an epidemic. And then, okay, and then we cut to like the tennis club or whatever, and I guess Mary and Bill have been playing together, but not lately because Bill's been hanging out at the weed house. And she's like waiting for him at the club, and someone makes a snide comment about how like, oh, he's definitely not coming. I guess he hasn't been around for a tennis club meeting in a while, so I guess that's unfortunate, it seems. Okay, and then we cut to, there's like a wild party at Maze / the drug house going on. People are like doing all sorts of crazy jazz dancing, and it's like real fast, and like everyone's super manic. Which, I mean, I've smoked a lot of weed, and that is sort of the opposite of what it makes me feel, but, you do you, I guess. Actually, not with this movie, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Yeah, Bill's doing some wild dancing with the girl. He's all, like, feeling himself, and then Bill starts, like, making out with this girl, which is, like, dun dun dun, because he's supposed to be with, like, Mary, or whatever the hell her name is. It's like mad piano dancing, everyone's making out. There's a guy just laughing hysterically in a chair, rocking back and forth. Oh yeah, and the girl that he's making out with Bill is like horny AF. She is ready to go. Oof. Oh, and then some girl goes around asking for like, asking about like the hit and run or whatever. I can't figure out who this was. Whatever. She goes to May's house to look and then gets essentially tricked into smoking weed. She's like, here's a regular cigarette. She's like, don't worry about it, it's just different. And then gets basically tricked into getting high, starts laughing, and then the old creepy dude basically essentially tries to rape her. She yells no. It's very uncomfortable. Bill walks in on this, flips out, and fights the dude. And then there's like a fight that breaks out. Yeah. Oh yeah, and then there's like a shot that gets fired, and all of a sudden, oh no, the girl who just came to check on her boyfriend is dead. Mary, that's right, that's the one who came and got tricked into smoking weed. Ralph tells, who's Ralph? I don't know, some other dude. Whatever. They try to take care of it. And then they essentially, because Bill didn't see what happened. Oh yeah, by the way, Bill is upstairs while this is all happening, about to get his Mac on with some other girl that is definitely not Mary. And then, yeah, and they essentially convince him that he shot Mary, and then this is all his fault. And since he was, so high on the weed, he has no idea what happened. Let's see. And then we cut to the soda shop. And then we get some sort of like, there's like a cover up about the hit and run. It's like, you're not going to tell anybody, I don't know. Because clearly the people who smoked weed caused it, and they're older creepy dude, and like, he just keeps trying to hide it up. I'm sorry if I'm not making sense. I'm really doing my best. I'm doing my best with the material that I was given. Alright, so this is the Star Wars Mandalorian palette, and I'm gonna grab... and I'm gonna grab some of the sipping soup over here. A little like sparkly olive green situation. And I'm gonna put it on top of this green. Alright. Yeah, so the hit and run essentially gets covered up, but there's a trial for basically the murder of Mary. And A doctor gets called to the stand to ask about Bill Harper. Apparently it's his personal doctor or whatever. And like he knows all this stuff about him. He's like, he has dissociation of ideas. He keeps missing, and like he's like, I watched several of his tennis matches, and he keeps missing the ball by like 3 or 4 feet, and I'm like, I would be super creeped out if my doctor just like started showing up to all my like athletic matches. Like, is that a thing? Very creepy. I don't know. There's just, I got a weird vibe from that guy. Anyway. But yeah, the doctor's like, it's definitely the weed. He's smoking the weed. This is why he flipped out. It's all, the weed made him crazy, right? Oh yeah, and then, so Bill's principal slash teacher, I can't really tell, goes on the stand and essentially is like, you used to be like a good all-American boy, but now, what's happening? He bursts into laughter randomly during, English class when they're reading Romeo and Juliet, which seems like an odd complaint. And then, yeah, he's clearly insane now. Yeah, okay, buddy, okay, whatever. And then we're back at Maze, and then creepy older dude who actually shot Mary and is framing Bill for it is clearly like racked with guilt. Like he can't handle it. He can't deal. He's like just smoking like so much pot all the time. It's all he wants to do. And then this like other random girl who I guess is hanging out with May and stuff. And like everyone else who's been involved in these shenanigans, they're like, we're all staying here and you're locked in until the trial's over. No one's going out. So okay, that's happening. Essentially like prisoners, right? Alright, so this is just like cheap oil makeup palette from Amazon. I'm gonna grab some of the black and just like fill this in like a little bit here. Alright, anyway, back at the bad people drug office, there's a plot to kill a creepy older dude because he's getting too quote unquote jumpy, and they're afraid he's gonna do something stupid and rash and blow the whole weed operation. So they essentially plot to kill him. Then we cut to the trial. The prosecutor is giving his like final remarks, telling the jury what they're there to do. And like his whole thing is that like Bill was involved in a tawdry love affair because he was upstairs trying to like, I think he actually did sleep with that girl. I don't remember. It was so unremarkable. I clearly didn't even bother to take note of it. But yeah, like the prosecutor basically claimed tawdry love affair, weed. He was doomed. And let's see. But yeah, that's basically it. The jury, there's like, they all want to convict him except one guy who's like, but what if he was like insane? And then they get into all these weird things. I guess like the test for insanity wasn't there because I was like, I feel like your jury instructions were like, is he guilty or not? Not is he insane. Those are separate instructions, but alright, whatever, anyway. Like, I expected anything in this movie to like make sense or, but whatever. Alright, then I'm just gonna press a little black eyeshadow powder into this to seal it in. But yeah, but essentially, like, I guess the guy who's in charge of them is like, we need to make an example, and I guess, that shuts up acquittal guy. Or not guilty guy, or I don't know, it's not even made clear what's going on over here. But yeah, of course, Bill is found guilty, and he's gonna be hanged. Woo, that's rough. Okay, anyway, back at Maze. We get there's like this sort of like weird piano scene where this girl that's hanging out with him is like trying to soothe him with piano, and he just like keeps smoking weed, and he's like, play faster, 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 and he starts playing with her, and it's just like, it's all very like manic, and they're both just like chain smoking weed and laughing hysterically and like manically dancing or playing the piano, and it's very strange. Like, whatever, man. And then I guess they get like the newspaper, or they're like listening to the radio, I don't know, whatever. So they get the information that he's gonna be hanged and he was found guilty, and then he starts freaking out. Oh, and then the guy from the drug office who's like, we need to kill this guy, because he keeps like freaking out about the fact that he framed someone else for murder. Okay, so I guess Ralph Wiley is the guy's name that I keep calling old creepy dude, which I finally, I guess, realized at the end. But yeah, the guy who tries to, okay, so in his defense, the guy was coming over to kill him, but he didn't really know that at the time. I mean, he did end up being right, but yeah, but he essentially beats him to death with a stick. So that's a lot. And then the cops come, and then the girl who's like hanging out with him, who's not May, tries to run off. But of course she gets caught. Everybody confesses to everything. It's all very clean. And oh god, and the worst part, you want to talk about like bad storytelling. So like, we know as the audience, right, everything that's happened. We know who killed who and everything, and so when the girl who was hanging out with the actual murderer, the piano and whatever, and she tells the police what happened, they make us watch the entire thing. She gives a confession, and we have to listen to the entire story that we just watched for like a good, what feels like forever, but it's probably just 2 minutes. But oh Jesus, that was a real choice y'all made. You made a real choice. That was not a good one. No bueno. But yeah, the girl confesses to everything. We listen to the whole thing, and then like we get a cut to like the judge who just like decides he's like, I'm just gonna declare a new verdict, and it's like, you can't. At the best, all you can do is declare a mistrial or a new trial, but like he was just like, no, everyone's innocent. It's fucking bananas. And I feel like even for 1930s, was it 6? Still not very kosher. Just doesn't feel right. And then there's like sappy end music. Okay, so apparently this girl who was hanging out with like the actual guilty guy, I didn't realize this, but she was the same girl who was like basically got Bill to smoke, and she was so distraught by what she had done to him and all the lies and everything that like she literally just like, so they're just like hanging out in like an office building or something, and she just like looks at the window and just like runs for it, just like fucking jumps out the window. Just like running dash. It's, I don't know, man. I mean, I've never been around someone who jumped out a window, but I don't think that's how that happens. It's just so crazy. She like can't handle what she did. Alright, we're gonna work on the eyeliner a little bit here. Alright, yes, people are jumping out windows. Apparently, Ralph, the guy who, the older creepy guy, is now, completely insane due to his marijuana use. I didn't realize that could happen, but apparently. He is, basically committed to an asylum for the rest of his life, so that sucks for him. Alright, now that I've drawn some sort of weird mask on my face. Alright, so yeah, so after this, whatever, we go back to the speech dude, which is, oh god. And then we zoom in on him, and it could be your son or yours or yours. He points at the camera. Da! The end, right? Alright. Ooh, this is the kimchi virgin mojito palette. Woo! I'm gonna grab some of this, I think. But yeah, so like this movie has some like interesting history. Well, and a lot of it's just like sort of the history of why marijuana was criminalized. Most of it has to do with like financial interests. I know a lot of people like to be like, timber destroyed marijuana, and that's like kind of true, but it's like it was timber, it was a lot of other things, and it was a couple people who controlled those things that then decided that they couldn't have any competition, and that's sort of what happened. And also they sort of played on the xenophobia at the time because it was being brought from Mexico by all these new Mexican immigrants, and you know, people were learning a new kind of racism. Maybe it wasn't new. Maybe it was new for some people. Anyway. And so like so one of the basically the sort of architect behind the whole like war on drugs as we know it today was Harry Anslinger, and he was head of the Drug Enforcement Agency from 1930 to 1962. And he used to be like really big on like cracking down on prohibition, but then once prohibition was over, he sort of like he needed a job, right? And so there's like a lot of speculation that part of the reason he didn't really care about marijuana at all before, but the reason he suddenly cared now was because he needed like his job needed to exist, like he needed to have a reason for the agency to keep existing. And so he was like demon weed. And there's speculation that like towards the end he like actually like he believed it, but whether or not he did at the beginning is, you know, whatever. But yeah, he would call it like the evil Mexican plant, really like associated. And so like the reason it has the name marijuana was because it sounded like more like Mexican, right? It used to be called cannabis and was like a commonly prescribed thing for people who didn't want to use opiates to like deal with problems. And it's called cannabis, but then like they changed, or rather they made a big campaign changing it to marijuana and try to make it sound like really foreign and stuff, because you know that scares people, whatever. But yeah, so he went to like, one of the things he did is he went to like 30 different doctors to get their opinion on marijuana and try to link it to like violence. 29 of them were unable to give him the answers he needed. But that number 30 guy, he took him everywhere, and like he made all sorts of like crazy, like outrageous claims that he had no basis in science for, and Anslinger didn't care because it like pushed his agenda. So he was supported financially by William Hearst, who was like threatened by that like hemp could be used as like a rope, and like a more profitable sort of like fiber against the timber industries. And then also the DuPont Corporation, because they had a lot of interest in nylon, and they were not too happy about the about like cheap hemp rope and fabrics. Oh yeah, and then he was like, let's make it clear, he was like super racist. Besides all the like stuff with Mexicans, he also like called it like the African American problem, and like constantly like basically be like it's black people that are bringing there's this whole like, you know, if you let your white women smoke weed, they're gonna sleep with the black guys or whatever. And it just like, it was so fucking racist. Oh yeah, I don't even want to say some of these things. He said a lot of super racist things. But yeah, oh gosh, oh god. Okay, here's one. Most cannabis users were Negroes, Hispanics, Filipinos, and entertainers who played satanic music, and he considered it a public health crisis. It's just ridiculous. So my favorite actually fact about this horrible gentleman is that not only did he like was he like very prohibition. Oh, I don't know what's happening to this eye over here. Woo! But he was an anti-weed, but like he hated jazz music, like just fucking hated it. Like considered it almost, and like wanted to consider it almost as much a public health problem as like drugs and alcohol. Oh, he tried really hard, but even like his goonies in the government were like, dude, I don't know about that one. But yeah, so like part of this is that like apparently he like harassed Billie Holiday for like years. And I didn't know this, but like while she was dying in bed, he like handcuffed her under arrest. You know, because she was like an addict and dealing with stuff. But here's the thing, like while he did this to Billie Holiday when Judy Garland was dealing with all her addiction issues, he basically wrote her a letter and was like, you need to take care of yourself. Don't worry about anyone else. And it was just very, wow, okay. Guess the white lady's allowed, but whatever. It was, yeah. Did I mention he was racist? Oh yeah, so and he believes there's like an intrinsic link between like marijuana and jazz music. And he said that only marijuana allowed jazz players to play at their furious rate that was impossible in a normal state. Yeah, that was really funny. And he was like the best response to all of this? Prison. Just throw them all in prison. He is sort of like, not the only reason, but like definitely one of the first pushers of like the modern prison industrial complex and the war on drugs as we have it, right? Thanks, dude. Real helpful. The kimchi bronzer for contour, and then I think I'm gonna grab this cheeky blush to put on. Alright. But yeah, he believed drug addicts didn't deserve empathy, and that they were beyond any sort of redemption or treatment. Yeah. But yeah, that's so that's essentially Reefer Madness. Again, can't really recommend it. Not even as like a joke, fun thing to watch for like 420, like get stoned and watch it. Like, not worth your time. Go watch like Half Baked or something. Like, if you're gonna, it's just Harold and Kumar Go to White House. There's so many. Cheech and Chong. Oh, those movies are so good. Like, no man, this movie doesn't deserve your time. And I know nobody's getting paid for it because it's in the public domain now, but like, it's just like, it's not even fun to laugh at. It's just sort of, I don't know, painful to watch. Painful to watch. Alright. So I'm gonna grab this blush, and then I'm also gonna use, I think, the kimchi, like, highlight. And then, yeah, and then I'll pop back with you after a fast forward to throw on some lip stuff and do our final review. Woo. So I've got a NYX matte lip liner. This is Stone Fox. It's like a gray. And then I've got some Crown lip stains that I think I'm going to play with. So yeah, I'm going to get to. Okay, before I finish these lips, before I forget, I'm gonna throw on some like Trixie Mattel glitter. I've got Slime Time and Live in the Present. I'm gonna throw on my eyes and also lashes. Cool. watch Gem and the Holograms? Do you remember like the Misfits, which was like their like hard rock like sort of enemies or whatever? I feel very much like the lost member of the Misfit. I feel very much like the member of the Misfits that stayed backstage to keep smoking weed while they fought everyone else. Hi. Do you like my nails? Hello, pot leaf on my nail. A couple of them. Yeah. Woo! I'm gonna give Reefer Madness like 1 out of 5 fabulous nails. Probably this one. It's so bad. It's so poorly written. It's not even like so bad it's enjoyable. It's just, I mean, if you've watched this, you don't need to watch that movie. Don't waste your time. Do something else. Watch an episode of Real Housewives. I feel like even that is more well crafted than this piece of garbage movie. It's not even like, God, it's just like a PSA that got left to the bottom that nobody cared about. This movie is obviously very famous for its, depictions of, insane depictions of, people going crazy on marijuana. And those are kind of fun to look at, and if you're kind of into that, that's cool, but, like, this is fun as an artifact. It's not enjoyable as a movie. 1 out of, 5 fingers, 5 pot leaves. Go do something else on 420. It's 420. Happy 420, y'all. If you don't have, celebratory nails like I do, then, do you. Do whatever you want to do on this highest of holidays. And if you're not a pot smoker, that's chill. Do, I don't know, do whatever it is that you do that's not smoking weed. The rest of us will be here, and, Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. This movie wasn't great, but I tried to make the best of it. The history behind it is kind of interesting, but, Yeah, I've been doing a lot of movies from the 30s and 70s. I don't know what's up with that. Yeah, very, 80s glam rock and roll villain. But not really. I'm, hanging out with the villains because they got the good weed. But I'm just, I'm just chilling. Because I got high. Because I got high. Because I got high. Ba da da da.